Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I'm going to be sharing with you week number 21, which is the Hearts and Flowers Applique block. This is one of my Scrappy blocks in my 52-week series. You can actually use this block with last week's block, week number 20, which was the Bachelor in Love block, to make a quilt. And I'm going to be showing you how to make that beautiful Valentine quilt on Friday. But for today, let's take a look to see what we need to make the beautiful Hearts and Flowers Scrappy block. Don't forget to download the PDF. The PDF has the pattern for the instructions, which is for the block itself. It also has on the second page, the photo of the quilt that we'll be working on Friday. And it also has the PDF of the templates. So you want to make sure you download that PDF, save it or print it, whatever works best for you, or maybe just save the playlist so that you have all of it for future reference. Remember, when you're working with templates, there is always a 1/4 inch seam allowance that EQ8 provides for the templates. For those of you who love to do needle turn applique, if you do needle turn applique, you definitely need that 1/4 inch seam allowance. But I'm going to be showing you fusible applique, so you can ignore the 1/4 inch seam allowance and follow the dark lines. So let's take a peek here. Okay, so what I have in front of me here is the background square, and in your instructions it'll let you know that you do need to have one light background square, 12.5 inches. You want to cut it at 12.5 inches or larger. You can cut it at 13 inches and then trim it down after you've done your applique. Sometimes when there's a lot of applique, it does reduce the size of the block. So if you want to cut it at 13 inches and then we'll trim it to 12.5 when you're done, that's perfect. Also, I have 4 5-inch squares that I'm going to be using. These are mediums for my hearts. I have 1 5-inch square that I'm going to be using for the flower buds, and this is a medium. And then I have a couple of darks here. Instead of just using one dark, I'm using 2 different darks. These will be for all my leaves and the part of the flower that's underneath the bud. And this is going to be for my little stems. So those are the fabrics that I'm going to use for my flower. And what I have done is taken the templates, which, let me grab that here for you. And here they are. For these templates, you are going to need to trace 4 of the A's, which is the heart. You're going to need to trace 4 of the C's, which is the little thing underneath that flower bud. And here is the flower bud, and you need 4 of those, which is B. You'll need 4 of the stems, and you'll need 8 of the leaves. So make sure when you print this out that you're following those guidelines with the quantity that you need for each of those elements. And I've already done that. So I just took my fusible paper. This one is just a light heat and bond. I recommend a light fusible. It's just so much easier to work with and for sewing and so forth. And what I like to do is go ahead and group the elements together. So I have my hearts grouped together. I have my stems grouped together. I have my leaves grouped together. And then my buds and the little portion of the flower that's underneath the bud. So they're all grouped together, and I can loosely cut them out, and I can put them on the back of the appropriate fabric, fuse it, and then I can cut them on the line. Let me show you that. All right, so as you can see here, I have loosely cut them out in groupings that will allow me to place them on these squares quite easily and fuse them to the back. So that's the front, this is the back. We're going to fuse them to the back. And so I've got my 8 leaves on these 2 5-inch squares. And on this one, if you choose to go ahead with a different gray or dark for your stems, I just used a 3-inch square, and I've got my 4 stems right here. They're all grouped together, and I can secure them. I can press them to the back of that. That's the front. This is the wrong side, and there are the stems. And I'm going to press that on there. I'll take this over to the machine in just a minute, or to the iron. And here I have this 4 parts of the flower that are right under the bud. They are also going to be this gray, and I have them loosely cut around each element. It's very important that you keep fusible around all of the lines as you fuse it to the fabric. That will allow the fuse to adhere all the way to the very edge of each of your elements. So that's why I have loosely cut around them. And then of course I have my 4 hearts that I have loosely cut out, and that's going to be pressed onto the back of that square. And the last thing is down under here. These are the buds. So here are the buds. It's a square basically that's going to show up under this. So when you put this element with the bud, that's how it's going to look. And it'll make more sense here in a minute. This is the right side, here is the wrong side, and I've got all 4 of my buds that I am going to press to this. So I'm going to take all of these to the iron. I'm going to press them. Follow the instructions on your fusible web, whatever it tells you. Everyone has a little bit different instructions. Sometimes they require steam, sometimes they don't. Typically, they don't require steam. And just follow how many seconds they want you to press on each. And don't move your iron around, but just simply lay it on the element and let it adhere. Press it for the amount of seconds that your fusible requests. So for an entire clip, I lost my audio, but what I'm going to do is let you see the video of my cutting out the heart on the line and allowing the excess fuse to remain on the fabric. That just ensures that every part of that heart has fusible on it all the way up to the line. Every element that you cut out needs to have that fuse all the way to and beyond the line that you cut it on to ensure that it fuses properly. And so I'm going to show you a little clipping of me cutting the heart, and then I removed the paper from this heart and all of the elements, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I place them on my block. Okay, so you can see my pile over here of all of the elements that I have cut out. And this is that last heart. It is really quite easy to remove the paper from the back. But if you run into a problem, take a pen, any kind of a pen, and just scratch the paper side, and it will give you a place to hold on to actually remove that paper from your fused fabric. So that's just a trick on removing it. So now what I'm doing with all of my block, I am going to take a look at it and get everything laid on the block the way I want it. I have made creases. I've pressed creases in this block. I folded it in half, and then I folded it in half again. So I've got creases going lengthwise and horizontally. I am going to lay each of my hearts so that these 2 points line up on those creases. And I'm keeping my heart about 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. And then I'm placing all of the rest of my elements in there. You'll notice that the pattern itself, it doesn't have the leaves touching the stem, but you can certainly have them touching if you want. This is your block. Have fun with it. So I have placed everything where I want it here. I would recommend when you place your elements, and these have all of the paper removed, when you place your elements, make sure that you do this on your ironing board. It's going to save you hassle of having to rearrange everything by transferring this over to the ironing board. I will have to transfer and rearrange things, but for you, I would just recommend that you do this step at your ironing board. And once you're happy with the placement, if everything looks exactly the way you want it, then and only then you can press. And press each element based upon the instructions for your fusible web. And then we're ready to applique. So let me get my block over to the ironing board, get it pressed, and then I'm going to set up my machine for applique. So I'm setting up my machine. I'm going to put the gray thread in first. Since there's a lot of gray elements, I want to get those all secured down first. And I have put the thread in, and I've also put in an embroidery or applique foot. It has a wide spot there because I'm going to do kind of a fancy stitch around the hearts. I'm probably just going to do a zigzag or something like that around these gray elements. Let me check to see what I have available here on this machine and decide what I'm going to use, and then I'll show you here. So I've decided for the stem and this portion right under the flower bud, I'm just going to use a straight stitch, an edge stitch, and I'm going to applique as close as possible to the edge of these elements. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in fast motion for you, and I'll be right back. I've decided to stitch a blanket stitch around my leaves, so I'm going to start that right here and just identify, whoops, I need to restart. Need to make sure that my needle on the right side is right on the edge. So there is a stitch or two that I will be removing later, but I started over and I'm now right on the edge. I did reduce the length of that zigzag stitch for this blanket stitch to a 2.5. So it's 2.5 wide, 2.5 long. Or 2.5 wide, 2.5 long. And again, because I'm using a gray thread, I'm not really going to be able to see it very much, and that's okay. It blends in with the fabric itself. Now let me get this cut and I'll show you. Again, there are a couple of stitches that I will be removing from the front, but there it is. And it's really pretty hard to actually see the stitching. It blends in really well. Now I'm going to continue with all of these leaves and the centers in the gray, and then I'm going to load my pink thread for my buds, and then the last thing I'm going to do is my hearts, and I'm going to do a fancy stitch around the hearts. I'll show you that as well. So I have finished appliquing this one heart using a lacy stitch on my machine, and it's really kind of hard for you to see it. Maybe you can identify it there. It's just a row of hearts, and one of the hearts faces the inside, the other heart faces the outside, and just got a curvy line. It's just a lacy stitch that I found on my machine. It would definitely be much more visible if I had used contrasting thread, but I used a variegated pink and white thread, so it just really blends in with the heart itself. But it does give it a lacy effect, and so that's what I'm going to use to attach my 4 hearts on this block. So here is the finished block. It has been appliqued onto the background, and now it is ready to be used in the quilt that I will be helping you to put together on this coming Friday. So make sure you stop back on Friday. We're going to be using the Bachelor in Love blocks. We're going to need 8 of those, and this one block here that we've just created, the hearts and flowers for the center. And we'll put this beautiful quilt together. With that pattern, I'll also give you on Friday the yardage and that you're going to need for border and so forth. But it's a beautiful block. I love it. I really enjoyed putting it together. Very simple one, lots of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. So thank you so much for stopping by my channel, Quilting with Lori. Again, I'm Lori Dickman, and I really enjoy being able to show you how you can use up your scrap stash. And today's was a fun block. This one was the Hearts and Flowers block. I'd love to see photos of your blocks that you're putting together. Please make sure that you check out my Facebook page, Quilting with Lori, and then find the group page called Scrap Up Your Stash. And make sure you post photos of projects that you're working on, the blocks that you're putting together. I would love to see them, and it's really inspirational for the other quilters as well. So don't forget to download that PDF, which is attached in the description box below, and I'll have lots of links down there for you to check out. I'll have my Speedy Solutions video tutorial on how to scrap up your stash. I will have my Facebook group page down there so you can find that. I'll have my website page. Just a lot of information will be attached. So please check that all out, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Share my videos with friends and people that you know who love and enjoy quilting and sewing. and it'd be great for them to be able to become a part of the family as we're quilting up our scrap stash. I also love to read comments from my viewers, so please don't forget to comment below as well. And so until next time, happy quilting.